all, and welcome to the weekly podcast. I'm your host, Gurtej Atwal, and I have my co host today with me, Harpreet Garewal. And
Thank you,
we are
Gurtej, again for
talking,
having me in the show. So, yep, we are back
thank you,
again with
Harpreet.
you guys to talk about some new topic with you guys.
Yeah, no, thank you, Harpreet. So please let our audience know what is our today's topic and why we are here to discuss that informative topic.
So, yeah, as we all know about the topics which we bring on, everybody is aware of that, but not fully knowledgeable about what all those things are. We hear those terms in regular basis or wherever we go, or like in sometimes we hear those terms, but to dig down more on those kind of topics, we just bring those topics to make all of us aware that what are all those things, what are they are surrounded with. So today we have similar topic which is capital punishment. So we're going to talk about capital punishment. Everybody knows about what it is, but yeah, let's bring on the topic and then see how what details it has, how the things happen, what happens, and how we is going around us. Yeah. So let's talk about today about capital
Yeah,
punishment.
so from international perspective, like all the countries, if we talk about 108 countries, they legally said they do not want any capital punishment. Capital punishment is ending somebody's life. But yeah, there has to be a deterrent to any criminal. So 30 countries, they have permanently blocked the capital punishment. So six countries, they have just put an exception. They said, okay, if somebody does a treason, if somebody does a espionage, then it is okay. Otherwise, there should not be a capital punishment. So first, we will understand how internationally or in the United States, how these states or countries are dealing with capital punishment. Then later on, we will also see what the sentiments are behind these capital punishment should be there or it should not be there, so that we are talking about these things. We are the voters. We so whenever a legislation comes, whenever a new voting comes in favor of these or in against these, so we should have the information. We should have talked about these things so we can make a justice to those regulations. So 51 countries still believe that capital punishment should be there. So roughly 20 to 25 countries every year they carry on these kinds of executions. So if we talk about the United States, so 23 states that United States has, so they do not have any kind of capital punishment. But 27 states in the United States still believe that capital punishment should be there. So just an example, California and for country wise, Malaysia. So these countries do not have the death penalty. So let's see now what's the domestic or what's happening in America with respect to this. Harpreet.
So yeah, so as we are seeing that, okay, fine. With what is the perspective behind that? The historical perspective behind the capital punishment. The first person legally executed by the civil authorities in America was Captain George Kendall in 1608. So if you see that this is not a new thing, or it is carrying on from 1608. The first thing when we are talking about the American history for capital punishment, it was 1608, and the first American state to outlaw the death penalty for all the crimes except treason was Michigan, which was in 1846, and the first American state to outlaw the death penalty for all the crimes was Rhode Island in 1852, but it was reinstalled again in 1873 until again it was abolished in Rhode Island in 1984. The first American state to permanently outlaw the death penalty was Wisconsin in 1853. So there are, if you talk about just in America, the peoples are in favor or are not in favor. So like if you talk about the Rhode Island, which you talk about, it was went out and then again it was re-established and then again it was went on. So we have to know about all those things, why those things come into the picture, and again they take back all those things. So yeah, we'll talk about more on these things.
Right. So now again coming to the international side, if we talk about other countries, Venezuela, it was the first country which said no on capital punishment. So it was in 1863. Then Chad, that is the latest country which decided in 2020 that there should not be any capital punishment. So here we can see that countries and inside the United States, there is a debate. Some people are for it, some people are against it. So
Yeah.
everybody has their opinion, but still there is a bigger divide between the thought process of individuals. So if we see that how the capital punishment, or since when it is active in the society, some documents they say around 1750 BC. That is so early. So the capital punishment was there. And some documents say that around 2000 BC, during the China's dynasty, these capital punishments were started in our society. So since then, we are seeing these kinds of things that are happening in our society. So from again international perspective, if we say China, North Korea, Sudan, Syria, and Vietnam, these are the countries which do larger capital punishments every year. If we talk about China, around 2,500 individuals they give capital punishment per year. So roughly 88 percentage of all the legal capital punishments they happen in Iran, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, or Egypt. So we are just discussing this in which parts of the world there is still sentiment for capital punishment. And certain parts of the world they are against, or they have stopped giving the capital punishment. So same thing happening internally in United States. So Harpreet.
So yeah, so we've talked about national, it's American, and now we were talking about the American experience. So 27, as we talked before, the 27 state in US have retained the use of death penalty now. So like if you talk about the US only, federal government has done, out of those 27 states have legally retained the use of death penalty. And there are 21,000 to 22,000 legal executions since mid 1600s. There's the huge number on that part again as well. And there have been another 10,000 extra legal lynches, which is happening in, if you talk about just American again, and that number is again going big. So there are, and again on top of that, there was 7,500 legal execution in the 20th century itself. If you talk about just 20th century, the recent thing, and there have been roughly 1,500 execution since 1967. So we are just giving out the numbers to give you the idea of find what is happening and what is the exact number we have, and that how and where all those things are still happening on those numbers. Yeah,
Yeah,
good.
from the American experience side, if we say that California, that is a bigger state, around 720 individuals, they are on the death row. And same if we talk about Texas, which is one of the biggest state, around 500 people, they are on the death row. So states still are debating, they are thinking what to do and what not to do. So, but if we think that they are always fair, no, there are some mistakes also. Some people, they were executed and later on they found out, oh, they should not be executed. So there is always a pro and con in this side. Then military also executes. So here we can see around 135 persons were executed by United States military in 1918. So the thing is, so death penalty is there. So there is a positive aspect. Some may be debating that somebody is getting justice, so somebody's family is getting justice. Or if a culprit who has done more harm to the society, they are not given a lifetime sentence, so there is a cost saving in that. But there are instances which has been seen where somebody who was not supposed to given a death sentence, because law they see what is in front of them, what evidence is in front of them. But sometimes there are some people who are given these punishments who should not be a culprit, or they find those evidences later on. Harpreet.
Yeah. So yeah, to continue with that American experience, so what kind of methods which they use in America, if you talk about just America, for this capital punishment. So if you see on the screen that electric chair, so 8 states have first used it since 1890. So that is the first kind of capital punishment which they are using for now as electric chair. So if you go below, and there is gas, which is using by 7 of the states since 1924, and then hung till death will still exist in 3 states, which is first used in 1622. So since then, it was still 3 states are using that capital punishment to give it to the criminals, and then lethal injection. So that is also still in 31 states. That's a big number out of the other capital punishment which we see. The 31 states are still having the lethal injection first. It was first used in 1982, and the firing squad is used by 3 states, which is unknown. We don't know when it was started, but still the firing squad capital punishment is given in 3 states in United States. And then we say what are the offenses which we have, like it varies by state. So there are different kind of offenses which is happening in across the United States. If we talk about first degree murder, so those are kind of the things which is happening as offenses: first degree murder, or the murder of a law enforcement official. So it depends what kind of murder or what kind of crime happened. According to that, they select the capital punishment and how those things should be happening. And then train wrecking and aircraft piracy, aggravated kidnapping, aggravated assault by the prison inmate. So these are all kind of offenses which is happening, which cause to those kind of capital punishments. That depends what kind of crime it has. Yeah, Gutej.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the thing is, so if we talk about the recommendation, so it was recommended in 1977 that there has been 100 consensual or voluntary executions were given. So sometimes people, they believe that they did something wrong, then they ask for it, and those consensual punishments were given as well. So sometimes they feel that whatever they did was so outrageous, they demand these kinds of punishments. So now, if this punishment is totally abolished or banned by some of the countries, some of the states, then this consensual execution is not a point, so it cannot be given. So the regulation that we have is the 8th capital punishment cases. So in this one, below 17 years of age, nobody can be given a capital punishment irrespective of what they have done. So to mentally challenged people, capital punishment, that is not a scenario as well. So if somebody is mentally challenged, so these things we have to understand. Below 17 years, if somebody does any outrageous crime, they cannot be given this penalty. So we can see that public support wise, 80% of the public, they are for this capital punishment. They think that it has to be there, but still 60 people of the that are around the public, they say, oh, we should not be having the death penalty. So it is not making any change, or it is not better for our society. Harpreet.
So yeah, so as we talk about those things, like I want to focus on that as well. That even if you kind of give a vote or something like that, that whether it should be there or it should not be there, it depends upon which party or which team or like which person we are talking to. The person who killed someone or a person who got killed, the family of those direct peoples. It depends, because the family who lost the member, they will for sure want that person to get punished. But all in all, it doesn't go on sentiments. It doesn't go on personal behavior. It should be taken care under the in the broader picture, like what all those things, what circumstances are those things happen, and how is going to impact the society and all those things. So taking it all those consideration, and people, like, of course they go give like 60 or 40% to those, like whether they yes or no, but still it's a debatable thing whether they have to have those capital punishment in America or not. If we go forward, the argument in the favor of capital punishment, so that is what we are talking about, like just deserts, eye for an eye, or the family closure, which we talk about. It depends who we are talking to. If we are talking to the family person whose immediate got killed, or who immediate got like affected with their crime, so those person will never want the person who killed, that he should get leave without any punishment or something like that. But if we are talking about the person who killed them, they will for sure want to find this is what happened, but it might be there is some other circumstances under which those things happened, and that should be considered while giving the justice. So it depends upon all the things, that how those things go on. It depends upon the revenge, the specific deterrence, or subjective general deterrence. So it's not sure that how those things happen, but it depends.
Yeah, no, now if you see the comments against the capital punishment, so the people or the countries and the states which has banned it, they say it is very brutal. It is not the right way or the right approach. So morally killing somebody, that is not a solution, or that should not be an option. So the justice, so sometimes some innocent people, they get this punishment, and after the fact the courts or public, they get to know, oh, something incorrect has been done. But once a capital punishment, somebody is given this punishment, there is no coming back. So other thing, they see that ethically this is not right. So some individual taking life and of another individual, so that is not right thing to do. So sometimes it is used as a political tool. So we always seen that in developing countries as well as in other countries where this is used as a tool. One political party, if that is strong, they use it against the good leaders of the opposition party. So there are many factors in the plus and the minus points, in the favor and against. Another factor is the cost of this capital punishment. So that people always say that if somebody has to be sentenced for like 100 years, 70 years, there is huge cost that is state, that taxpayers has to pay. Like around 6 to 10% of the is the major or the higher cost that those community has to pay for those who did some kind of offense. So there are many factors which are for, which are against, but yeah, there is more into it. Harpreet.
Yeah. So there are botched executions as well. If we talk about further about those, there are 7% of execution which are botched. But we talk about those things that most in favor of death penalty view this is a non-issue as a revenge in their driving factor. But the opposed to death penalty view botched executions as an additional argument is opposition. So yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, if we see, we have the same comments in favor and the comments
on the
against
against.
it. So they say that family closure is there. The family gets relief who's somebody who is close to them is taken away from them. So for against, they say that this is not morally correct to give somebody a capital punishment. Now there is another argument. They say that on homicide rates, the capital punishment does make an impact. But if we see that in Canada, where homicide rates has been decreased more than 25%. So after they abolished the death penalty, so Canada don't have any death penalty, but their cases of homicide are decreasing. So here we can see for the homicide, this is not the major factor to have the capital punishment or to not have the capital punishment. There are other factors: the schooling, the education, how society deals with somebody who gets distracted. So how the society is helping somebody who has some mental issue, who gets distracted towards some kind of they are not getting good education, they gets into the drugs, or there is some cultural issues, or there are some other ethnical issues or religious issues. So how the society deals with them. So only just saying, okay, somebody does something wrong, they will be given a capital punishment. They do not stop doing that. So we have live examples in front of us, like the countries who stopped them and focused on other aspects, they have improved in aspects of homicides. So that thing has been improved. So let's see what the international perspective is.
so yeah. So if we talk about the international perspective, like when we talk about those kind of things, like when we know that okay, fine, these homicides are getting which we just saw that the numbers are reduced, but it should be like okay, fine, we are letting them to okay, fine, we don't want to get them punished, and we want to have some other like options for them, like whether they want to have some prison for those things. We talked about those things as well, but on that case also the government has to pay, as we see, 6 to 10 years to if we give that punishment to keep them in the prison and all those things. So that is again they have to calculate all those things. So now we like, if you talk about the international perspective, what we think about international perspective, then the comes like a human right issue comes in the picture. Okay, fine, we cannot kill anybody or we cannot make anybody give a capital punishment because the human rights, of course, comes into the picture, or there are some religious political issues or just justice policy context come into the pictures. And the capital punishment is not a human right issue in the United States, but rather a deeply embedded culture, religious, and hot button political issues. So that is also in the thing to talk about. And we live in a developed country, so we know that this is again going on into the country, but they still keep on looking to find whether it's a human right issue or not. But still, some things, some people look to find still say this is a human right issue, but again, there are different kind of thinking going on. Numerous international entities have called for us abolition in that, like United Nations, European Union, and Catholic Church. Can't be a member of EU and retain the death penalty. Even China and Malaysia are on the path of abolition. So because we know that China, we talked about China and Malaysia, they are still on the number one, I can say, in the top list for the capital punishment. Even they are talking about in the path to go in the path of abolition for the capital punishment, because it is not the way or not the thing to make the people like see whatever is. It can be fine, okay, because if some person was going to do a crime or commit anything which is wrong to the society or people or anything else, if they have not any, they are not scared of anything, if they are not scared of any punishments, they will not stop. That's kind of assumption some people have. But when we saw the numbers in Canada, because they have abolished those things, but still the numbers are getting low. It depends upon the mentality and thinking. If you are letting those kind of people to divert to some other things which can make them grow or something, to learn more something on those things. So if you are saying you just want to cut off one thing, you have to give other paths to those kind of people to grow and to learn something else and be happy and be live with a society which where they did all those kind of crimes.
Yeah, no, lastly, if we talk about what's happening about capital punishment in United States, United States also share the same sentiments as China, as the Islamic regimes. So it's not that United States people here thinks differently. So then there is a divide between the Republicans and Democrats. 80% of the Republicans, they believe that capital punishment is right, it has to stay. And 35% of Democrats, they also believe that capital punishment should be there. Now if we talk about who can change these rules and regulations, can Supreme Court change it? No. It is each and every state which has to make its own decisions. And who is making those decisions? It's you and me. We have to be informed whenever these kinds of resolutions, these kinds of questions comes in front of us as a ballot. We have to vote. We have to vote based on the information we have. If we all believe living in a state that this is the right thing to do, then we have to look at the figures, look at the facts. We have to say yes. If collectively we make a decision, yeah, there are other factors, we have to focus on some other things, and this is ethically and morally not right, then we have to say no. So this is an informative session where we have to get informed on what is in front of us. So this is just a small topic about should capital punishment be here or should it be abolished. We shared the facts, how the world sees it, how United States sees it. 27 of the United States, the states in United States, they are for capital punishment. 23 states, they are against capital punishment. And in some of the developing countries, we already discussed that it is used as a political tool. So we have to be informed, we have to be discussing and sharing this kind of information with each and everybody, so that whenever some kind of regulation is in front of us, we can make an informed decision. Harpreet.
Very, very well said, Gurtej. Yeah, because if say something comes up, like when we got a chance to elect something or we want to vote on something, and all of a sudden those kind of things come in front of me, and I don't know about all the perspective, all those things, how the numbers goes, how things works. But if we know about all those things, if we know the background, how things works, how these things happen, so in that case, at least that's the reason we are talking about those kind of topics. Like if something comes in future, or if something is talking about all those, some person is talking about all those things, you should know why all those things are happening, who are in favor, who are not in favor, how to think about like keeping everything or every society or state, or we can say country in picture, that if we do this, how is going to impact us, or if we don't do this, how is going to impact us. So we have to think broadly and see how is going to make us better.
Thank you very much, Harpreet, and thank you everybody for listening today's topic. We will be back next week with a different topic, just to provide information and brainstorm around that topic. Till then, stay healthy, stay informed. Thank you. ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, ਮੈਂ ਗੁਰਤੇਜ ਸਿੰਘ,
ਮੈਂ ਰਾਜਦੀਪ ਸਿੰਘ
ਕੈਲੀਫੋਰਨੀਆ ਦੀ ਧਰਤੀ ਤੋਂ
ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਰੂਬਰੂ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ
ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ
ਸ਼ੋਅ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਸਪੀਕਸ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ
ਟਾਈਮ ਟੀਵੀ ਤੇ।
Travel World. Get updated with travel and tourism world. News, views, deals from across the globe. Watch every Monday 3:30 p.m. and Tuesday